Transmigrated into the biological mother of the female lead in a tragic novel, I raised the female lead into a super strong mama's girl and sent her to police academy. Years later, she personally sent all 5 criminal male leads to prison, making sure they got a taste of life behind bars. I transmigrated, rich and beautiful, pain-free motherhood. My daughter is sweet and soft. So adorable it makes you want to commit a crime. Don't get me wrong, I mean that literally. My daughter is the heroine of an old-school angst novel, the kind with 5 male leads. The good news is, the female lead is still just a child. The bad news is, in this tragic novel, all 5 male leads are outlaws. The second day after crossing over, sitting in the sunset, I flipped through the internal documents and asset structure of the Sioux group while elegantly taking a sip of cola from a wine glass. Suddenly, a scream came from the living room. I shuffled over in the flip-flops I just had delivered same day to check it out, and there was my adorable little female lead, pitifully sprawled on the floor, surrounded by scattered shards of porcelain. On the steps of the nearby staircase stood a little boy about the same age as the female lead, looking quite pleased with himself as he watched the scene. This little boy was none other than Su Yan, the male lead of this angsty novel. His actions in the original work can be summed up in one sentence: he is a walking criminal code. When he saw me approaching, his gaze toward the female lead grew even more smug. Deliberately, as I walked up to her, he called out to me first, "Aunt Lin," then stretched out his arms, making a gesture as if asking for a hug. Su Yan is the adopted son of Su Muting, the cheap husband of the original owner of this body. His mother, Ning Huan, is Su Muting's white moonlight. Although he was born from Ning Huan and her first love, he was highly valued by Su Mutian. In fact, in this household, the status of the female lead and I is not even as high as the dog raised by Su Yan. After all, this dog was left behind by Ning Huan. Moreover, Su Yan has had an abnormally strong sense of possessiveness since childhood, abandoned by his own mother since childhood. He harbored a deep-seated aversion to women, yet, he envied the female lead for having her mother's company all along. So he bullied and oppressed her in every way, trying to steal away her mother's love. He wanted the female lead to be just like him, abandoned by her family and filled with hatred for the world. Ironically, the original owner of this body was utterly infatuated with Su Muting. Seeing how much Su Muting valued Su Yan, she went out of her way to please Su Yan in order to win her husband's favor, often neglecting and mistreating her own biological daughter in the process. It is precisely because of this that the female lead has been molded into her current character, submissive and completely unaware of how to resist. If the original owner had seen Su Yan taking the initiative to show kindness, she would have already happily gone over to pick him up, but I am not her. I directly ignored him and first picked up the pitiful little female lead from the ground. At this, a flicker of confusion crossed Su Yan's still youthful face. But it was quickly replaced by a look of jealous resentment as he stared at the female lead in my arms. Meanwhile, the female lead was caught off guard by my sudden embrace. Looking both flustered and bewildered, she glanced dazedly at Su Yan standing on the stairs, then back at me in confusion, as if she didn't deserve such an embrace. I turned to the maid beside me and asked, "What's going on here?" The maid cast a timid glance at Su Yan and stammered, too afraid to answer. The maid's reaction reflects Su Muting's attitude toward me. I can't be bothered to make things difficult for a worker who just follows the boss's lead. When I do things, I prefer to solve problems at their root. Coincidentally, it was just about time for Su Muting to come home from work. After helping the female lead tidy her dress, I glanced at my phone and waited with composure to watch Su Yan's performance. Sure enough, as soon as Su Muting, dressed in a suit and leather shoes, stepped into the living room, Su Yan ran over and tattled, "Dad, my sister broke the vase Mom left for me." The mom he referred to was, of course, his biological mother, Ning Huan. Su Muting's gaze fell on the shattered pieces on the floor, and his handsome brows suddenly furrowed tightly. He walked over to the little female protagonist, his expression cold, showing no sign that he and the female protagonist were actually biological father and daughter. "Su Tong, go to the quiet room and kneel in reflection." With just one sentence, he revealed the fact that he treats me, his wife and the biological mother of the female lead, as if I were heir. Ahem, I cleared my throat softly, trying to regain a bit of presence. A vase from Pinduoduo, $9.90 with free shipping. Is it really worth it? Besides, Isn't it a bit unfair to punish someone before even clarifying the situation? When Ning Huan went abroad, she took all the inheritance left by her first love, leaving Su Yan only a small stray dog and a pile of worthless junk. Only a hopeless simp like Su Mutian would treat these things as treasures and keep them like sacred relics. Su Muting's face darkened. He hated it most when anyone slandered Ning Huan, even if it was just calling the things she left behind worthless junk. Are you saying Xiao Yan wronged Su Tong? He turned to look at me with displeasure, then suddenly paused. His gaze sweeping over my oversized t-shirt, wide-leg pants, and the flip-flops on my feet. Frowning, he asked, "Why are you dressed like this? What's it to you?" I retorted irritably, "What kind of standard is this, to even dare have an opinion about my landlady work attire?" As the former head of the quick transmigration villain department, after being forced into retirement by the main god, I've made a living collecting rent in this retirement world. Every time I go out to collect rent in this outfit, I feel an immense sense of fulfillment in life. How could someone like Su Muting, a detached and arrogant CEO, ever understand such simple, unadorned joy? This is utterly disgraceful. Su Muting's tone was dripping with contempt. Seeing Su Muting's attention diverted, Su Yan quickly tugged at his sleeve and said, "Dad, this is Mom's favorite vase." I rolled my eyes directly. "Well, your mom's taste is certainly down to earth." Su Yan's little face stiffened, but he soon pouted, hugged Su Muting's leg, and whimpered pitifully. "Dad." This cry made Su Muting's heart ache terribly. He immediately pulled a long face and commanded, "Su Tong, do I need to say it a second time? Go to the quiet room right now." The little heroine lowered her head and obediently replied, "Yes, Dad," completely unaware that she could have turned to me, her own mother, for help. I sighed, grabbed the little heroine who was about to leave, squatted down in front of her, and asked, "Tong Tong, did you really break this vase?" The little heroine raised her teary eyes, looking somewhat confused, as if she didn't understand at all why I was asking this. Meanwhile, Su Muting behind me had already sensed the meaning behind my words and said unhappily, "Lin Han, what do you mean by that? I've already said Xiao Yan wouldn't wrong her. I couldn't be bothered to deal with him." Instead, I took the heroine's small hand and asked again in a gentle voice, "Tong Tong, tell me, did you really break this vase? Tong Tong, don't be afraid." I looked into her eyes. "As long as Tong Tong is telling the truth, no matter what she says, I will believe you." "Lin Han, that's enough," Su Muting said impatiently. "You're teaching her to shirk responsibility and wrong others. Are you even fit to be the lady of the Su family?" Su Muting's scolding of me caused a ripple of emotion in the little heroine's eyes, who had been unsure of what to do. She bit her lip, stepped in front of me, and with a protective stance, raised her small face with effort, her voice trembling as she said to Su Muting, "I didn't break the vase, Daddy, please don't scold Mommy." Su Muting naturally wouldn't believe that any of this was done by Su Yan. He shot me a cold glance and said, "Lin Han, look at you, what have you taught her to become?" "What are you barking about?" I interrupted Su Muting, reaching out to pat the female lead's little head. "Tong Tong did very well, leave the rest to me." I turned around and looked at Su Muting. "With your brain that can't tell right from wrong, it's a miracle the Su Corporation hasn't gone bankrupt by now." "Lin Han." Su Muting was provoked by me, his voice suddenly rising. I looked at him with utter exasperation. Rein in this display of helpless rage. You're a CEO. After all, can't you show a bit more class? In a matter of reasoning, does raising your voice automatically make you right? As I spoke, I took out my phone, pulled up the footage from the surveillance camera I had pre-installed in the living room, and tossed it to him, saying, "Open your eyes wide and take a good look. Who is the one evading responsibility and wrongfully accusing others?" The surveillance footage clearly recorded how Su Yan had staged the scene himself, broken the vase, and framed the female lead. Su Muting stared at the surveillance footage, falling into silence. He turned his gaze to Su Yan's face, which bore such a striking resemblance to Ning Huan's, and after a long pause, finally spoke, "Let this matter end here. Mr. Su really doesn't have a double standard when it comes to being a person. No wonder you raised such a fine son." Su Muting's brow furrowed slightly. "Then what do you want?" I glanced lightly at Su Yan and smiled. "I'm a very fair person. Whatever punishment you wanted for Tong Tong just now, just apply the same to Su Yan." Su Muting's expression darkened as he warned, "Lin Han, if you still want to be Mrs. Su, you'd better know your place." Even though he was clearly in the wrong, he looked at me as if I were the one making a fuss. "Enough, I'll make it up to you, whether it's a house or a car, just name it." "Ha, I suggest you shake your brain cells into place before talking to me." I lifted my hand to adjust my nails, walked up to Su Yan, glanced at him, then turned to Su Muting. "You haven't forgotten, have you, that everything you just mentioned is already considered marital property? What's with the act of generosity here? The original owner's parents passed away early, and as the sole heir of the Lin family, she brought the entire Lin enterprise with her when she married into the Su family." After mocking Su Muting, I pinched Su Yan's little face again. "This little face is quite fair. It must feel good to slap." "Lin Han, what do you think you're doing?" Before Su Muting could finish speaking, I had already slapped Su Yan across the face. "Lin Han, you're insane. What's the rush? It'll be your turn soon." I spun around and delivered a flying kick, sending Su Muting crashing to the ground once more. "Lin Han, you..." Su Muting, sprawled on the floor, struggled to utter a few words. "What are you about?" I sauntered over, crouched down in front of him, took my flip-flop from his face, and mimicked his earlier tone, feeling angry and wronged. "Fine, I'll make it up to you. Tell me, do you want a house or a car? What exactly do you want?" Su Muting said angrily. I took out the divorce agreement I had prepared long ago, slapped it onto his face, and said cheerfully, "I want a divorce." Then, I pulled out a copy of Sewing Machine Operation Guide, tossed it to Su Yan, patted his swollen little face, and spoke earnestly. "Study hard, you'll need this in the future." Mom." At that moment, the little girl called out to me softly. I was taken aback for a moment. I had been so caught up in the thrill of the fight that I almost forgot there was an adorable little kid present. I walked over to her and said seriously, Tong Tong, remember that hitting people is wrong. Children shouldn't learn this." "Okay, but, Mom," she looked at Su Yan and Su Muting, who were already beaten to the point of barely being able to speak, her big eyes filled with confusion. I quickly said, "I'm doing this to uphold justice. Our Tong Tong didn't do anything wrong. They wronged an innocent person. I was just teaching them a lesson." The little girl frowned, thinking very hard, and suddenly her eyes lit up as she said, I understand." I had no idea what she had figured out, so I could only smile at her, take her little hand, and change the subject. "Come on. I'm in a good mood today. I'll take Tong Tong out for a big meal." Holding the female lead's little hand, I walked toward the world outside this oppressive villa. That very night, I moved out with Su Tong. Before bed, Su Tong asked me uneasily, "Mom, do you want to divorce Dad because of me?" Many children, when faced with their parents' divorce, tend to blame themselves for it. "Why would Tong Tong think that?" I asked. She lowered her little head and whispered, "Because of me. You and Dad had a fight today. Tong Tong, your dad isn't a good father, but that's not your fault." I reached out and ruffled her hair. "Today, Su Yan did something wrong and blamed you, but your dad didn't act with the fairness a father, or even an adult, should have. He helped Su Yan wrong you, and after learning the truth, he didn't punish Su Yan or apologize to you. I scolded him today because he did something wrong, and the reason I want to divorce him." I looked at Su Tong and asked, "Tong Tong, do you think Dad treats Mom well?" Su Tong looked up blankly, but after a moment, she still shook her head. I smiled and said, "That's right, Tong Tong, you must remember that no matter how others see us, we must learn to love ourselves first. If a relationship makes you feel uncomfortable, what you should do is not force yourself to adapt to it, but consider whether it's time to end this unhealthy relationship." As a female protagonist in a tragic romance novel, Su Tong's entire life has been filled with various unhealthy, unequal, and even toxic intimate relationships. Making her understand that she has the right to refuse such a relationship is an essential step in changing the course of her tragic life. However, it's clear that I, as a seasoned villain, have indeed been out of touch with children for far too long. Upon hearing my words, Su Tong's first reaction was to tilt her little head slightly and murmur in confusion, "Unhealthy relationships." But just as I was about to explain it to her in a simpler, more understandable way, she said, "Is it like the flowers in the garden? The gardener uncle said that if you don't remove the sick flowers, the healthy ones nearby will also get sick and die." As expected of my clever and adorable little heroine, I watched her fall asleep, then awakened the system within me. "Xiao Bai," I called out. "System, master, Me, is the physique modification program ready? Su Tong, like most heroines in tragic romance novels, is intelligent and kind-hearted, yet possesses an extremely fragile and easily victimized constitution. To change her fate, aside from strengthening her mindset, it is also necessary to enhance her overly delicate body. The system replied, "It's ready, however, Master, since this is an unauthorized transmigration. The physique development program can only select one attribute to cultivate among agility, strength, and resistance." "I understand," I said, "then I choose strength." When dealing with these pure prison system male leads in this book who are always forcing love, everything else is just empty talk. The main focus is on using brute force to create miracles. At least this way, when danger arises, I can simply crush the other party's tools of mischief. Su Muting clearly didn't believe that I truly wanted to divorce him, thinking I was playing some kind of hard-to-get game to capture his attention. He confidently told me that if I didn't apologize, I could forget about ever returning to the Su family. That just made me laugh out loud. I asked him, if he wanted me to apologize, was he prepared to kneel down and listen? He was so angry he wanted to hit me on the spot. But when he saw me flash my flip-flops, he stopped dead in his tracks. The system informed me that after I left his office, he was so furious he smashed an entire wall of his collected glassware. I thought for a moment, then immediately accessed the Su family surveillance system, saved the footage of Su Muting smashing the glasses, and sent it to my lawyer, informing her that Su Muting had intentionally destroyed marital property. According to the civil code, if one party maliciously damages marital property during a divorce, that party may receive a reduced share or no share at all when dividing the marital assets. That entire wall of glassware belonging to Su Muting consisted of high-end artisanal pieces, each of considerable value. Our beautiful lawyer was also very effective, quickly finding through her own methods all the records of the glass cups Su Muting had purchased from various channels over the years. She compiled a list and included it in the negotiation documents. It is said that when Su Muting saw this list, his face turned green with anger. On my side, to prevent Su Muting's side from harassing Su Tong during the divorce proceedings, after sending the asset information previously obtained from within the Su family to the lawyer, I took Su Tong abroad for a vacation. Perhaps it was because she had left the oppressive family environment, but after arriving abroad, Su Tong became much more cheerful, with my encouragement. She even started to quietly say no when she encountered things she didn't like. Next to the beach of the seaside hotel we stayed at abroad, there was a small children's playground. Every time Su Tong passed by, she would look at the carousel in the playground with an envious expression, but every time I asked if she wanted to go play, she would firmly shake her head. I promised little Wudong that when she saves up enough money, we'll go ride the carousel by the square together. Little Wudong was a friend Su Tong met while learning dance at the art square, and also her only childhood friend in the original story. Unfortunately, in the original story, little Wudong, who was an orphan, was adopted and taken to another city before she could save up enough money. So, in her short life, Su Tong never got to fulfill her wish of riding the carousel at the amusement park, after little Wudong left, due to Su Yan's suppression behind the scenes. Su Tong was unable to make any more friends. It wasn't until her second year of high school that a girl named Yuan Shuang transferred to her class. Because of Su Yan's influence, Su Tong had always been isolated and ostracized at school. On the very first day Yuan Shuang transferred in, someone in the class warned her not to get too close to Su Tong, but Yuan Shuang simply said, "I can judge for myself who I should be friends with." Soon, the two of them became friends. Later, a large amusement park opened locally. Yuan Shuang invited her to go and have fun together. Su Tong naturally agreed with great delight, but she was so overjoyed that it made Su Yan grit his teeth in frustration. So, on the day of the appointment, Su Yan resorted to his old tricks and had Su Mutian confine her to her room. By the time she was released and returned to school, she heard the news that Yuan Shuang had been kidnapped outside the amusement park and was missing. It was also at this moment that she learned Yuan Shuang was the little Wudong from all those years ago. Yuan Shuang invited her to the amusement park to fulfill their promise from back then and to reveal her true identity. Ever since that day, Su Tong had been trying every possible way to find Yuan Shuang. It wasn't until much later, when Su Yan sent her as a gift to the bed of the fifth male lead, that she learned from him that everything that had happened back then was actually orchestrated by Su Yan, that kind and upright girl who always stood in front of her, shielding her from the malice of others. the only one who ever showed her kindness and made a promise to be best friends for life. On that sunny day, while waiting for her to ride the carousel together, she was kidnapped and taken abroad, where all her organs were harvested, and she died in agony and despair in a foreign land. Since the death of Su Tong's parents, finding Yuan Shuang had been the only belief that kept her enduring humiliation and staying alive. After learning the truth, Su Tong took advantage of Su Yan's deep sleep following his torment of her, used a knife to sever his head, and threw it into the pack of wild dogs he used to punish traitors. Then, clutching that yellowed amusement park admission ticket, she ended her own life. The lawyer sent a message saying that the divorce matters had been handled. I booked a flight back to my home country. After returning, I took Su Tong to the welfare home where little Wutong was staying. The thin, small girl sat under the old glass window at the corner of the stairs, holding a primary school textbook with its cover missing, stumbling over the words on the page. Little Wutong, what are you doing here? As soon as Su Tong saw her, he ran over in surprise and crouched down in front of the girl. Seeing Su Tong, the girl also revealed a bright smile. Tong Tong, what brings you here? But in an instant, the girl seemed to realize something, a flicker of sadness passing through her eyes as she cautiously asked Su Tong, did your mom and dad also abandon you? Without waiting for Su Tong to answer, she suddenly stood up, said to him, wait for me, and then dashed off like a gust of wind. A few minutes later, the girl came running back, panting heavily. In her hand was a small cloth bag, washed so many times it had faded to a pale color. From it, she pulled out a pack of chocolate that had already been opened and stuffed it into Su Tong's arms. Here, you gave this to me last time. I couldn't bear to eat it. Don't be sad. I'll protect you from now on. At this, Su Tong seemed a bit at a loss. He turned and called out to me, Mom. Only then did the girl notice me standing at the foot of the stairs. Realizing she had misunderstood, the girl blushed with embarrassment, awkwardly scratched her head, and called out to me, Auntie. I looked at her, took a deep breath, and gave her a big, warm smile. Little Wutong, who would later be known as Yuan Shuang, was abandoned by her parents under the Wutong tree at this welfare home the moment she was born. The welfare home organized movie screenings for the children every week. Yuan Shuang's favorite was a comedy film, in which the image of the landlady left a deep impression on her young heart. In order to become an outstanding landlady when she grew up, she would spend her free time collecting plastic bottles and scrap paper on the streets to sell, saving up for her tuition. Her most frequented spot was the art square where Su Tong practiced dance. Once, when the drink bottles she had collected were snatched away, she sat on the steps behind the square, shedding tears in sadness, and happened to run into Su Tong, who couldn't attend class because Su Yan had ruined her dance shoes. Seeing her crying so sadly, Su Tong went over to ask what was wrong. After learning that it was because the drink bottles she had collected were snatched away, Su Tong was at a loss for a long time. Finally, he took out all the snacks from his small backpack and stuffed them into her hands. I don't have any bottles, but I'll give you all of these. Please don't cry. Okay, next time I'll bring bottles for you. From then on, Su Tong would secretly collect empty bottles from home, put them in his backpack, and give them to little Wutong when he went to dance class. Until little Wutong was suddenly adopted, the two of them completely lost contact. I brought Yuan Shuang home. Even as we walked through the door, she was still asking me, Auntie, are you really going to adopt me? I smiled and gently stroked her little head, tenderly as if touching a distant memory of myself. Yes, from now on, this will be your home. Su Tong also came over, wrapping her little arms around her and saying, from now on, my mom will be your mom, and both my mom and I will protect you. Upon hearing this, little Yuan Shuang's tears began to fall, pattering down from her eyes. I crouched down and gently embraced the two children. My long unsettled heart finally found a moment of peace. From now on, you are sisters, and also the best of friends, I said softly to the two of them. I transferred Su Tong to a new school and enrolled both children there, to make it easier to take care of the two children. The system activated its human form, serving as a butler to help me manage the household chores. In the early morning, Li Shubai, transformed by the system, was watering the flowers in the yard, while I led Su Tong and Yuan Shuang in their morning exercises. Just like in the original story, Yuan Shuang learns everything quickly. The combat moves I taught them, she picked up with remarkable speed and precision. In contrast, Su Tong, as the female lead in a tragic romance novel, is somewhat less skilled in this area. Fortunately, she is bound to a physique development program, so while her movements may not be perfect, she certainly has the strength. What's even more delightful is that her personality has started to change. In the past, Su Tong was quiet and reserved, but now she is as cheerful as a little sun every day. After finishing 2 sets of exercises, the virtual panel notified Su Tong that her strength had increased by +1. I smiled with satisfaction, took them for breakfast, and then sent them to register at their new school. Over the weekend, I took them to the art square to ride the merry-go-round they had been longing for. At the new school's first anniversary celebration, the teacher asked the children to dress up as the person they most want to become when they grow up. After returning home, Su Tong excitedly hugged my leg and asked, Mommy, what is your dream? I didn't answer, just glanced at Yuan Shuang, who was twirling her hair around her head, and asked with a smile, What do you all want to be when you grow up? Su Tong eagerly answered, Mommy, I want to become a little fish detective when I grow up. Li Shubai noticed that the little fish detective mentioned by Su Tong was a character from the fairy tale book The Pea Warrior and the Little Fish Detective, and asked me, Master, is this a mission we completed before? I replied. That was from when I had just joined the villain department. At the time, I was dispatched to a fairy tale world to sabotage the happy ending between the princess and the prince. I had the Little Mermaid exchange the capture of 10 criminals for her legs, and I trained the princess and the pea to become a chivalrous wanderer. In the end, the Little Mermaid fell in love with solving cases, and the princess, who could feel a pea under 20 mattresses, no longer cared about the prince's opinion, as she could fight off bandits who kidnapped villagers. They lived independently and freely as themselves until they met during a case, becoming like-minded friends who worked together to protect the peace of the people in the fairy tale world. I wrote this story as a new fairy tale and released it into this world. The new story changed the ideals of children who read fairy tales, just like Su Tong, who no longer longed for a prince to save her but instead strived to become her own hero. All right. I patted Su Tong's little head and then asked Yuan Shuang, Shuang, what about you? Yuan Shuang hesitated for a moment before pulling a photo out of her backpack: curly hair, pajamas, baggy shorts, and a pair of iconic flip-flops. Without even looking, it was clear. The outfit was exactly like the landlady from the movie. Su Tong leaned in for a closer look, then turned to glance at my outfit, gazing at Yuan Shuang with admiration. Sis, you have such great taste. Yuan Shuang scratched her head sheepishly. I knew she admired the landlady because the landlady would step up whenever everyone was in danger. She wanted to be that kind of person too. I smiled and personally designed their cosplay outfits, then had Li Shubai turn them into finished pieces. On the day of the event, Li Shubai and I, as parents, went to the school auditorium to participate. Su Tong, dressed in her little police uniform, flitted around like a small butterfly, helping her classmates. Meanwhile, Yuan Shuang acted like a little landlady, standing proudly to the side, occasionally taking photos for her classmates. What a pleasant day. Before I could finish my lament, a loud cry echoed from the corner of the auditorium. I followed the other parents over and saw Su Tong pinning a little boy to the ground, using her cosplay detective handcuffs to lock his hands behind his back. Her homeroom teacher spotted me and hurried over, saying, Tongtong's mom. Just then, the boy's parents also approached. Seeing their child being bullied, they immediately rushed forward to pull Su Tong away, but I stepped in and stopped them. Tong, I called out. Upon seeing me, Su Tong released the boy he was holding down, stood up, and called out, Mom, what's the matter with your child? At such a young age, he already knows how to bully classmates. The boy's parent went over to pick up the child and said, Hurry up and take the handcuffs off my son. I glanced at the boy and asked Su Tong, Tong, why did you handcuff him? What else could it be, if not bullying classmates? The boy's father scolded, You women just don't get it. Aren't you going to make your daughter apologize to my son? It's because of mothers like you that we have such unruly daughters. I'm telling you, this isn't over. I'm going to make this little girl apologize to my son in front of the whole school. Don't you dare talk about my mom like that. Su Tong glared angrily at the parent and shouted, I didn't bully him. It was Shen Jia who bullied a girl first. You little brat. What nonsense are you talking? The boy's father stood up, looking as if he was about to teach Su Tong a lesson. I stepped forward, placing myself in front of Su Tong. Mr. Shen, is it? since our Tong Tong says another girl was bullied, wouldn't it be clear if we just ask about it? Just as they were speaking, another girl walked over with her mother. The girl's mother explained to the teacher that Shinjia had lifted the girl's skirt first, and Su Tong had only stepped in to stop him. The boy's father immediately grew agitated. Do you have any proof? Who knows if you're all just conspiring to frame my son, without evidence? I'll sue you for slander. Everyone saw your daughter bullying my son. This corner was a blind spot in the gymnasium surveillance, and the boy's father knew this well, which was why he dared to speak so boldly. I have evidence. Yuan Shuang, dressed like a little landlady, walked over and handed a phone to me. Mom, in the background of the photo, the boy was clearly seen pulling the girl's skirt. The boy's father saw it and looked completely dismissive. What kind of bullying is this? It's just kids joking around. It's not a joke. Su Tong stepped forward, puffing out his chest, and retorted loudly. Miao Miao already told Shinjia to stop, but he still went to pull her skirt. My mom said that kids should respect others. If someone says no, it means no. Actions or words that make others unhappy aren't jokes. They're bullying. Parent of Shinjia, Tong Tong is right about this matter, the homeroom teacher said from the side. The boy's father knew he was in the wrong, but still tried to save face by waving his hand and saying, forget it, just have your daughter unlock my son, and I won't make a big deal out of it today. No way. If Shinjia doesn't apologize to Miao Miao, I won't unlock the handcuffs, Su Tong said angrily, puffing out her cheeks. I said, I support my daughter. An elderly man who had brought his grandson to the event chimed in from the side. Well said. A grown man like you doesn't even understand basic decency as well as this little girl. Exactly. If a child doesn't know better, that's one thing, but for an adult to be just as clueless, no wonder people say that behind every misbehaving child, there's a misbehaving parent. How true that is. At such a young age, he already knows to lift a girl's skirt. Who knows what he'll do when he grows up? Isn't he from Lifeng Group? I remember that Ms. Xian, the founder of Lifeng Group, also came to the school anniversary event. The surrounding chatter put immense pressure on the boy's father, especially when he heard people starting to discuss his job. He had no choice but to grit his teeth and make the boy apologize to the girl named Miao Miao. Only then did Su Tong take out the key and unlock the handcuffs. Miao Miao's mother thanked Su Tong earnestly. Thank you, officer. Her homeroom teacher also specially awarded her a small medal for bravery. Su Tong's little face flushed red as she happily turned to look at me. I gave her a thumbs up, then slightly tilted my head toward Li Shubai beside me and said, go to Lifeng and ask about this Shin person. As one of the major shareholders of Lifeng, I absolutely cannot allow an employee who insults women to exist in a company I've invested in. On the way home, Su Tong kept holding the medal, and even when she went to sleep at night, she insisted on clutching it in her arms, unwilling to let go. Mom, I want to be a police officer when I grow up, to fight off bad guys and protect the little kids, she said to me sleepily, her eyes half closed as she drifted off. All right, I replied, tucking her in, placing the fairy tale book, P-Warrior and Detective Fish, beside her, and turning off the light before leaving her room. From that day on, Su Tong never complained again during her training sessions, and her strength grew steadily through her workouts, transforming her from the delicate, soft-skinned heroine of the original story, who would blush at the slightest touch, into a Lin Daiyu capable of uprooting a willow tree with her bare hands. She cries easily, but she's the type who could kill a tiger with a single punch. To help her better control her strength, I spent a fortune hiring the most professional coach to teach her and Yuanshuang combat skills. Soon, it was time for the two of them to enter their second year of high school. One day, Yuan Shuang returned from the Taekwondo gym with a flyer for a newly opened amusement park in hand. It suddenly dawned on me that the time had already come for the two of them to go to the amusement park together as agreed in the original story. How about we all go out together this weekend? I suggested proactively. Great. Su Tong happily raised both hands. Yuan Shuang also said cheerfully, then I'll buy the tickets. I said, let's buy tickets for Saturday. That was the date in the original work when Yuan Shuang and Shudong had agreed to go to the amusement park together. Yuan Shuang paused for a moment, then smiled and said, Mom and I are on the same wavelength. On May 12th, Li Shubai was driving. I sat in the passenger seat, while Su Tong and Yuan Shuang were in the back, the two children as excited as if it were their first time going out. Once inside the amusement park, Uncle Lee took out sun hats for the three of us, standing in the center of the entrance plaza of the amusement park. A sudden wave of emotion welled up in my eyes. Master, Lee Shubai walked to my side, following my gaze toward the brand new sign at the entrance of the amusement park. I sighed and said, "It's fine, it's all in the past. At least now they're truly happy." As I spoke, I looked toward Su Tong and Yuan Shuang, who were excitedly discussing which attraction to start with. "Master, another system has entered this world." Li Shubai suddenly changed his expression and warned me, "It's nearby right now." I frowned and said, "First, figure out if it was sent by the main god. If not, just ignore it. I can't go back right now. If the main god finds out I'm not in the retirement world, it'll be very troublesome." "We've already locked onto the target's location," Li Shubai said. "It's only a level 2 mission system, but it isn't wearing a mission identification code. Another illegal time traveler. That's a bit unusual." I made an excuse for Su Tong and Yuan Shuang to go ride the roller coaster first, then had Li Shubai take me to find that system's location. As I approached, I heard a woman's voice saying, "System, what's going on? How did we end up inside an amusement park?" Shuang was kidnapped by Su Yan's people outside the park. "I need to get out of here right away." "How much longer until my body can move normally?" "Probably about 2 more hours, replied a somewhat childish system voice. "I'm only a level 2 system. Forced illegal time travel comes with these side effects. I can't wait. I can't afford to wait that long. I have to go find Shuang first." Immediately after, I saw a girl lying on the ground, wriggling like a worm as she crawled out from the bushes. "Holy shit, there's someone here." The girl was startled when she saw my shoes. "System, didn't you say this place was empty?" The little system sounded quite aggrieved. "This is the second phase of the amusement park that hasn't opened yet. There shouldn't be anyone here. After all these years, you're still just like this." I looked at the familiar face before me, crouched down, and gently pinched her soft cheek, turning to Li Shubai. I said, "Xiao Bai, help her out of the paralyzed state." "Wow, this is a humanoid system that can generate a physical form." "Host, we've run into a super big shot." "Is that so?" "Thank you, big shot." The girl, freed from her paralysis, looked up at my face and was utterly stunned. Mom, didn't you die a long time ago?" I smiled helplessly. "I'm not your mom. Are you a transmigrator too?" The person before me didn't seem surprised, just stood up and said, "Well, my mom died when I was little. Thanks for helping me out of the paralysis." "Big shot, I've got something urgent to do right now. I'll come back to thank you properly after I save someone." I grabbed the adult version of Su Tong, who was about to rush out in a hurry, took a deep breath, and told her, "Don't worry, Yuan Shuang is fine now, and so am I." Su Tong turned her head in confusion and looked at me. I said, Tong, thank you for avenging me, you are." Su Tong looked at my expression and suddenly realized something. Her eyes instantly reddened, and tears rolled down her cheeks. Shuang. I smiled and gave her a gentle nod. She immediately rushed over and hugged me. I'm sorry. It's all my fault. I'm sorry for putting you through so much pain. I'm sorry. It's not your fault. I've never blamed you." I hugged her back, patting her back gently to comfort her. "Besides, aren't you here to save me now?" I understood better than anyone how high the risks were of forcibly crossing over with an immature second-level system, but she still resolutely traveled back, just to rush to the amusement park and save my younger self before the tragedy occurred. Yes, I am Yuan Shuang, or rather, the Yuan Shuang who had already died in the original story. After my death, because my resentment was too strong, I was chosen by the former head of the villain department and taken there. All these years, I have desperately completed tasks, all for the sake of returning to change the tragedy of Su Tong and my own life. However, because I personally eliminated a system that threatened the female lead's life during a mission, I was forcibly retired and sent to the retirement world. "So, Shuang, you came back this time to save me too?" Su Tong asked. I nodded. Her eyes were once again filled with guilt. I could only change the subject and ask her, "What's going on with your system?" "So." She sniffled and told me about her experiences doing missions all these years. Back then, after she killed Su Yan to avenge me and then took her own life, she encountered the supporting female character care system during its trial period. All these years, her missions have been to go to various worlds and care for those supporting female characters who had gone astray due to various misfortunes, preventing them from turning to the dark side. this job suits you well, I said. Su Tong endured so much suffering and humiliation in the original work, yet she still maintained empathy for ordinary people, time and again standing by the 5 male leads to rescue other girls who had been harmed by them. Shuang Shuang, what about you? Her eyes sparkled like stars. You're so brave and kind. You must have been assigned to the protagonist department, right? Her system coughed lightly beside her. Using a virtual avatar visible only to a few of us to point at the virtual emblem on Li Shubai's chest beside me. Host, that's the honor badge of the villain department. Only the systems of those who have served as the head of the villain department can have it. Upon hearing this, Su Tong was momentarily stunned, then looked at me with an expression full of admiration. Shuang Shuang, you really are the most amazing. At that moment, her system reminded her, host. Since the person you wanted to save is no longer in danger, when should we head back? I asked. How much longer can she stay in this world? Her system replied. In order to rush back and save someone, she used up all her points to cross over as soon as I finished upgrading. Based on the energy we have left now, we can only stay for a maximum of 5 more hours. After 5 hours, we will be forcibly sent back to the mission world. All right then, dear Miss Tong Tong, let's fulfill the promise we made back then. I reached out my hand to her. Su Tong looked up at me and gave a firm In response, I accompanied her to the ticket window to purchase a new ticket, then took her to meet the present-day Su Tong and Yuan Shuang. Yuan Shuang looked at her, then at Su Tong, furrowed her brow, and sent me a message. Mom, is this Aunt Tong Tong's biological mother? I smiled and shook my head at her, but I didn't reveal the identity of the grown-up Su Tong. We had a great time that half-day. We went on many rides together, including the carousel we had never managed to ride in our previous lives. The half-day passed quickly, and the grown-up Su Tong looked at me with reluctance. I smiled and said, it's okay, we'll have more chances to meet in the future. She replied, that's true, as she spoke. She took out another bracelet with a single bead strung on it and handed it to me. This is a talent of my system. Every time I level up, I can randomly produce a functional bead. This bead can offset 1 fatal injury. Please help me give it to the current little Yuan Shuang. Then I'll thank you on her behalf, I said, accepting the bead. Her system also curiously asked Li Shubai, big shot. May I ask what your talent attribute is? Li Shubai glanced at me and calmly replied, male virtue. Su Tong's system clearly didn't quite understand. Indeed, after leading the villain department for so many years and having seen countless systems, I had never encountered one whose awakened talent was a male virtue system complete with a full set of household skills. But this actually saved me a lot of trouble, since I never liked doing housework anyway. After seeing off the adult version of Su Tong and her system, I went back and found the 2 kids who were still playing wildly. I gave the bead left by the adult Su Tong to Yuan Shuang, telling her to wear it at all times. Less than a week after returning from the amusement park, I received a call from the high school attended by Su Tong and Yuan Shuang. When Li Shubai and I rushed to the school's administrative office, Su Tong and Yuan Shuang were shielding a girl, standing defiantly against 2 identical-looking boys sitting on the sofa. Standing beside the twins were 2 men dressed in suits. According to the head of the academic affairs office, one of these men was the butler of the Murong family, and the other was a lawyer from the Murong group. The reason I was called over was because Su Tong, while passing by the gymnasium, heard a girl crying. He kicked the door open and found these 2 bullying a girl. I glanced up at these 2 boys, remembering that they were the male lead's 2nd and 3rd rivals, the twins from the original story, in the original work. These 2 did not attend the same middle school as the female protagonist, so they had no interaction. However, the original work also mentioned that this pair of twins were school bullies in high school, often using their family background to bully girls from less affluent families. But I never expected these 2 to be so criminal, capable of such beastly acts even in high school. Not only did they assault their female classmates, but they also used high-definition cameras to take photos and record videos of them during the assaults. The original work never mentioned which high school they attended, but I never expected it to be this school. Shouldn't the school have reported this to the police first? I glanced at the videos and photos in the camera Su Tong had snatched from the twins and asked the dean. This has already crossed the line into criminal behavior. Ms. Lin, please don't be upset just yet. There might be some misunderstanding in this matter, the dean said, trying to appease me. I glanced at the twins. who showed no remorse and didn't seem to take the situation seriously at all, and sneered, "Well, it seems I'm just ignorant. I'd like to know what kind of misunderstanding could lead to such photos appearing in this camera." The dean looked troubled. "Such matters, if spread, could harm a girl's reputation." "I don't believe being bitten by a beast would affect a person's reputation," I replied. Seeing that I was unyielding, the dean turned to the two men in suits with a helpless expression. The lawyer stepped forward and said, "Ms. Lin, you are not the legal guardian of this student. Zhou, my client asked the school to bring you here because your daughter has taken property belonging to my client, and we hope you can return it." With that, he looked pointedly at the camera in my hand. "Ha!" I laughed. "What are you going to do if I don't give it back? Why don't you just call the police?" After saying that, I turned to look at Su Tong and said, "Tong Tong, whatever you want to do, Mom supports you." Su Tong nodded at me, then turned and took the hand of the girl beside her, asking, "Have you made up your mind?" The girl looked at Su Tong and nodded firmly. Su Tong immediately took out her phone and dialed the police. The head teacher wanted to stop her, but didn't dare to step forward due to my status. The other party's lawyer and butler were both adults, so naturally they didn't dare to take action in front of me and Li Shubai. However, the twins, seeing Su Tong call the police, instinctively tried to jump up and stop her, but having just been taught a lesson by Su Tong, and seeing him clench his fist at them, they backed down again, gritting their teeth as they sat back down, glaring at their own lawyer with a look of displeasure. "Ms. Lin, you're a smart person. You should know that offending the Murong group for a girl you don't even know isn't a wise move," the lawyer said. I smiled and replied, "Save that for the police when they get here." Half an hour later, the sound of police sirens rang out. I handed the camera to the police officer who had just entered, right in front of everyone. After understanding the situation and reviewing the contents of the camera, the police took everyone to the station. When I finished cooperating with the statement and came out, I happened to see Yuan Shuang and Xudong comforting the girl. "Don't be afraid. It was very brave of you to speak up about this," Xudong said. "Don't worry, no matter what happens in the future, we will protect you." But at that moment, the girl's parents were brought in. A burly man, as soon as he entered, slapped the girl without asking any questions. "Zhou Ling, I spent money to send you to school just so you could cause trouble for me. Later, you're coming with me to apologize to the two young masters Murong." Before the nearby police could intervene, Su Tong stepped forward and pinned the man against the wall. "Who said you could hit her?" Yuan Shuang also shielded Zhou Ling behind her, frowning as she looked at the man. "Where did this little brat come from, daring to meddle in my business?" The man was defiant and tried to struggle. The police officer who rushed over scolded, "Assaulting someone at the police station. Do you want to be detained?" Only then did the man calm down. Two police officers came over and escorted the man to the interrogation room. The female police officer beside her said to Su Tong, "You've got some good moves, little sister." Su Tong politely said thank you, then turned to ask Zhou Ling, "Are you okay?" Zhou Ling lowered her head. "Tong Tong, my stepfather works at the Murong family's company. He'll definitely." "Don't be afraid, young lady, we will handle this matter properly." The female police officer also came over to comfort her. Su Tong thought for a moment and said to me, "Mom, can Zhou Ling stay at our house for now? I'm afraid her dad might hit her if she goes home." I replied, "All right, wait here for a moment." I went to speak with the officer in charge of the case, explaining the situation at Zhou Ling's home, and brought her back with us under the pretext of protecting the victim. Just as we stepped out of the police station, we ran into the two Murong brothers, who had been released on a hefty bail. They swaggered past us, but suddenly stopped when they reached Su Tong, staring at her like prey and saying, "Little thing, we'll remember you. There's plenty of time ahead." That greasy speech immediately made my palms itch a little. But before I could speak, Su Tong laughed first. She looked down with disdain and said, "Little thing, TSK, I didn't expect you to be so self-aware, but you're right, there's plenty of time ahead. As classmates, I'll make sure you get to enjoy prison meals smoothly." After returning home, Su Tong began planning how to send the second and third male leads to prison for their meals. "Mom, I'd like to borrow your company's legal team for a bit," she said, clinging to my arm and acting coquettishly. It was a completely different demeanor from when she faced the second and third male leads outside. I nodded. "I'll leave this matter for you to handle. If you need anything at all, whether it's lawyers or money, you can just talk to your Uncle Lee." After so many years of nurturing, My little Tong Tong was no longer the timid and submissive little female lead she once was. She was brave, kind, and understood the proper boundaries and methods in handling matters. Otherwise, with her abilities, she could have crippled those two beasts on the spot when she caught the second and third male leads bullying Zhou Ling, but she held back and chose to use legal means instead. She and Yuan Shuang helped Zhou Ling's mother divorce her stepfather, then accompanied Zhou Ling in finding the other girls who had been assaulted by the twins, uniting them to file a joint lawsuit. Meanwhile, I worked behind the scenes, sending all the collected evidence of the Murong group's crimes to the police to help speed up the process. On the day the twins were sentenced, Su Tong held Zhou Ling and cried even louder than the defendants themselves, but even with her face already streaked with tears, the moment she saw the twins, she still didn't forget to flip them off. Enjoy your prison food. Yuan Shuang could only stand by, handing her tissues with a mix of affection and helpless sighs. After this incident, both girls threw themselves wholeheartedly into preparing for the college entrance exams. In the end, Yuan Shuang was admitted to the top university in the country, while Su Tong also got into the police academy as she wished. On the day Su Tong graduated from the police academy, Li Shubai reminded me that the main god had already noticed I wasn't in the retirement world. I sighed, thinking that what was meant to come would eventually come. I broke the rules to return to my original world, and I was ready to accept whatever punishment came my way. But let's first resolve the issues with Su Yan and the others, I said. Su Tong still carries a bit of the female protagonist's halo with her. Recently, the police selected new recruits to go undercover in Male Lead 5's club, and unsurprisingly, Su Tong was chosen. In the original story, Male Lead 5 and Su Yan have always been in cahoots, and neither of them is a good person, especially Su Yan, after Su Muting's death. Under his management, Su Corporation has hidden all those shady dealings very discreetly. Due to the constraints of the rules, my capabilities are limited. I have infiltrated Su Corporation's internal systems several times but have yet to find enough evidence to convict him, so I could only have Li Shubai keep a close watch on Su Tong's movements to ensure her safety. But the truth has proven that my Tong Tong is indeed no longer the little girl who needs my protection and worry. Her undercover work was exceptionally successful. Not only did she find evidence of the criminal collusion between Male Lead 5 and Su Yan, but she also followed the trail and uncovered Male Lead 4, the man who had kidnapped me and taken me abroad, removing all the organs from my body, who was supplying human organs to their human experimentation lab. The police quickly carried out the arrests, but Su Yan managed to escape, so it was you all, that evening. Su Tong and I returned home after eating out, and as soon as we stepped inside, Su Yan pointed a gun at my head. I never imagined that the ones who would drive me to this point would be my dear sister and aunt. He pointed the gun at me and said to Su Tong, "If you don't want me to kill her, you'd better do as I say." Su Tong glanced at Su Yan, let out a deep sigh, and asked Yuan Shuang beside him, "Sister, what should we do?" Yuan Shuang shrugged and smiled. "There's no way out, it's all fate. Since he knows you, I'll call an ambulance for him later." Su Yan, what are you talking about? Don't think for a second. Have you learned everything from the prison survival guide that Auntie gave you? I interrupted Su Yan, curling the corner of my mouth into a slight smile. Su Yan froze for a moment. I immediately demonstrated what it meant to disarm and dismantle a gun in 15 seconds, and as a bonus, I gave him a refresher on human skeletal anatomy by dislocating both his arms and legs. In the end, Su Yan was personally hoisted onto the stretcher by Su Tong. As Su Yan was being carried away, Su Tong waved at him, smiling with an innocent, childlike expression. "Goodbye, brother, remember to eat on time in prison." A female police officer took my statement, while Yuan Shuang accompanied Su Tong back to the police station to explain the situation. By the time they returned, I was sitting on the bed, flipping through the fairy tale book Su Tong had read as a child, The Pea Heroine and the Little Fish Detective. Li Shubai reminded me that the main god system had already contacted him, and we would be forcibly removed from this world in 3 hours. Su Tong, who had just finished bathing, was wearing her usual pink rabbit pajamas as she slipped into my bed, hugging my arm and cooing, "Mom, today was so scary, I want to sleep with you tonight." Then, just like usual, she rolled over and fell asleep in an instant. I put down my book and tucked the blanket snugly around her. At that moment, Yuan Shuang walked in, giving a helpless glance at the soundly sleeping Shudong beside her, and said to me, "Don't worry, I'll take good care of her from now on, I nodded, extending a hand toward her. She reached out and took my hand, no matter who you are or where you come from. Thank you, truly, you saved both me and Tong Tong. I smiled. There was never anyone else. You saved yourselves. I handed the already prepared property distribution agreement to Yuan Shuang, also gave her my property management company, and left a fund for Shudong that would ensure her a worry-free life. A stunning woman in red robes sat suspended in the center of a pure white space. I lowered my head, awaiting her pronouncement of my punishment. Yuan Shuang. You have violated the rules by leaving the retirement world without authorization and returning to the original world without receiving a mission assignment, disrupting its order. Since you are so unwilling to retire, I now sentence you to become the administrator of a matriarchal world. I was astonished. The administrator is essentially the deity of this entire matriarchal world, goddess sister. Are you sure this is a punishment? The goddess rubbed her temple and said lazily. Recently, those conquest systems under my foolish brother have become increasingly outrageous. They're promoting scripts like, chasing a wife into a crematorium, in matriarchal worlds, and who knows how many matriarchal microworlds' fortunes they've ruined. I'm entrusting you with the task of correcting these fortunes. With that, she waved her sleeve and sent me into the small space of the matriarchal world administrator. As the space recognized its master, countless scenes from matriarchal worlds unfolded before my eyes. So, Master, which world shall we start with? Li Shubai, now upgraded, stood respectfully by my side and asked. I casually pointed to a world with dimmed fortune. Let's start with this one. Then, Li Shubai and I vanished from the scene, embarking on a new journey. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this